The webinar has started, so thank you very much, Dr. Aspasia Dania, for joining us today, talking about Beyond the Scoreboard. Aspasia, I'll pass it over to you.
Okay, thank you so much, Ellen. Thank you, everyone who is here attending or who will be watching the webinar. We're trying to launch a webinar series through Teaching Games for Understanding, focusing on various topics. And if you have any idea or any current issues that are happening in your country, please feel free to reach us so that we can organize together a webinar as part of our series. Today's webinar is focusing on relational ethics, and I use the title Beyond the Scoreboard because sometimes we work with games focusing on what's the score or what's achieved, what is the performance. And by doing that, we keep forgetting that the relationality is something that is developed through the game. So how can we focus on relationality and ethically and help students or athletes become relationally ethical instead of just focusing on games and on game performance and exhibit it on a scoreboard? My name is Aspasia Dania. I'm coming from the National and Kapodistrian University of Athens in Greece at the School of Physical Education and Sports Science. And at the moment, I'm the Teaching Games for Understanding chair of the Special Interest Group. We're launching activities focusing on various domains, and in the next few days, we're going to be launching a newsletter with more. So keep in touch with us and follow us on social media. Today's agenda is to explore what could game-based pedagogy be developed as game-based pedagogy, focusing on qualities of character and specifically on relationality as a willingness to connect with others. So today we're going to outline some key ideas for teaching ethical decision-making and empathy in youth sports, if these are within physical education or sport, with our purpose to develop respectful players that engage with fair play. We believe that social justice within game-based pedagogies is something that needs to be promoted, and relationality is part of this process. So when we focus on relational ethics instead of teaching game skills or strategies, what we are doing actually is we are instilling some life lessons through play, because games, as you will see in the next slides, are perceived based on this perspective as learning laboratories where relationality is embodied and where values are practiced in real time rather than just being latent or abstract. This is for a lifelong value because games can help students or athletes to manage pressure and navigate adversity. And if the skills that are learned through games go beyond tactics or techniques, such as effective communication, adaptability, resilience, these are rather invaluable from very young ages because they can foster the sustainment of a positive learning environment where young people can develop holistically. So we need these moments, even if these are moments of adversity, even if these are moments of pressure, as teaching moments where we can reflect on together with our athletes and our students to instill these lifelong values. Today's youth are facing lots of strains, and especially within the competitive systems that we're living with, there is an overwhelming pressure from schools on academic performance and from sport clubs or sport places, contexts that put stress and pressure on children and youth to perform. Sometimes this becomes a harmful priority, especially in some sport clubs where a sport against all odds or performance against all odds becomes a life priority with harmful effects for young people. And there is lots of obsession with performance outcomes, no matter if this is at school, at the physical education, or after school programs. This is part of today's culture, and it's something that is instilled not only in games but in every aspect of a young person's life. For that purpose, we believe that games need to be laboratories where we can focus on various aspects that can help young people address these strains. Why? Because games provide lots of opportunities. Games produce everyday forms of living and being with others. They get from the first moment relationality starts, moments of cooperation, frustration, conflict, celebration, risk. All these moments are moments that, as we can say, are microsites of ethical becoming, and we need to work with them and their effective intensities because sometimes these are left and not prioritized. The teacher or the coach is focusing on techniques or skill or tactics, and these effective intensities that are created during moments of cooperation or frustration are left to be handled at the end of the lesson or at the end of the coaching session, and sometimes they're addressed at a surface level. So we feel that these are great moments where emergent values and embodied negotiations come into play. That's why games and play are important for working with this. Ethical relationships can be nurtured from the first moment of the game if these relational qualities are developed through active and embodied participation and not just as a narrative or a rhetoric. If coaches or teachers can utilize these inherent challenges that such as handling frustration or following rules to prompt ethical decision making or to provoke ethical decision making, if we can use game-based approach to ensure that character development or relationality is interwoven in every part of our lesson or coaching session and not part of some questions that we address during the lesson or something as a reflection, and also, when there are specific game designs that and modifications that put students and children and athletes in various roles facing different challenges. This is how relationality is practiced and not taught. And we'll give some guidelines, some rules in the next slides on how to do that. By that, I mean that when you design a game, it's not necessary that these things happen if you don't intentionally design the game for this purpose. So, relational ethics, yes, can be something that can be taught and nurtured within games if the pedagogy is focused on how to do that. So we need to harness all those powerful teaching moments that come into play during game and make game-based pedagogies not only contexts for learning skills, but also living laboratories for practicing these skills and values. If instead of just separating the moral guidelines that you need to be a fair player, that you need to collaborate with others, that you need to wait for your turn, or some things that we say that you need to respect the outcome of the game, instead of just moralizing these values, designing games with opportunities for students and athletes to practice relationality, to practice respect, to practice resilience, or to practice how to stay relational if you don't win the game, if things don't evolve as you would like as a person. By this way, students can embody both the fairness and the emotions that are related to aspects of this fairness as these are evolving in the game. So we need to intentionally work towards this purpose. How can we do that? When the structure of the game, and that is why within game-based approaches, this is very easy to do because we have lots of ways of modifying the game. So leveraging the structure of the game to promote growth. So instead of focusing on invasion games only or invasion game tactics only, introducing some moments and based on some values that we're going to talk afterwards that promote growth. Another thing is using rules that are shifting. I mean, it's something that may sound strange, but sometimes what is not expected or not overly structured may put you in moments of deeper reflection. So instead of using the same rules throughout the game, changing the activities by shifting and adapting the games while the play is in process. And also for teachers and coaches, this is important to use what we call a relationship pause, moments that encourage deep reflection, not on the strategies or the tactics of the game, but the way of but on moments that they experience relationality or lack of relationality. And this is where the problem solving shifts from tactics, techniques, and skills to the relationality as it is evolving within the game. So, how can we do that? My perspective is that we can work with three basic pillars. There can be many others, but today we're focusing on this. First of all is honor, and we will unpack everything in the next slides, empathy and integrity. It's important for students and athletes to learn that while we play, we honor each other's effort, not only our effort or not only our team's effort, but everyone's effort, even the referee's effort, if there are some students in this role. So everyone should be honored during the game. The second is deep empathy, and the way of putting yourself in the other's shoes is something that needs to be structured and interwoven within the game, not just expressed verbally. And integrity, having the skill and the courage to stay honest throughout the game, despite the stress or despite the emotional strain that you are feeling. So let's see each of these one by one. Honor and honoring as a continuous process is something that needs to be included because it promotes an inclusive climate and it helps everyone perform better. So instead of just focusing on winning and scoring, we focus on fairness. So fairness becomes a priority over winning. And how do we do that? We model as teachers and coaches, but also reward some acts of honesty, and we use some reflection moments during and after the play to focus specifically on these acts of honesty and reward it as it is evolving. So include honesty and fairness as part of our game design with some teachable moments. Competition becomes a shared challenge. It's not one team over the other, but it's a shared challenge for all. How we can establish a competition that is balanced and stays a continuously challenging endeavor for everyone within the game, both the offenders and the defenders, both people that are within the game or people that are waiting for their turn. So we use activities focusing on cooperation within competition, not prioritizing starting with cooperation and then continuing with competition, including moments of cooperation within the competition. How could you, as a group of athletes, sustain the challenge? And one way of achieving this is rotating rules. This is what I was talking before about the shifting rules. You can rotate roles. I mean, you may have given some roles to some players, but during the game and within the competition, you shift roles and then the challenge becomes different. So how can you sustain the challenge when there is difference in cooperation and difference in competition? Another thing that can help us stay in a process of honoring the others is a continuous care for others. So care for others doesn't become something because you develop if you play the game. It becomes a part of skillfulness. So instead of just observing, I mean, give for example the game performance assessment instrument, when we could also code and observe care for others as part of a skillful and wise player, and not only tactics or techniques. For example, in some rules that supporting a teammate or creating, seeing an open space, how can you care for the others while you are creating an open space or while you are supporting a teammate? This needs to be coded and evaluated as part of skillfulness. How can you practice that? During coaching sessions, you can practice a lot of conflict repair and dialogue in moments that are teachable, in moments that there is conflict, in moments that there is emotional strain. Use there some techniques, and usually dialogue helps a lot. And celebrate the respectful behavior, not only as a reward at the end of the game, but all those moments that come during the gameplay. Make the respectful behavior visible to others, as visible as performance. So if there is a skillful player that is heading with the ball to score, and there is there an event of respectful behavior of other teammates or even offenders, uh, use it as a moment to celebrate this, and not only the athlete that is going dribbling the towards the basket and the score. The second is empathy. We need a supportive climate, and usually a supportive climate within the game design is focused on safety. So how can you keep the challenge by maintaining safety for everyone? And safety is something that needs to be practiced. So even if someone has made mistakes, even this is an example, if you have a game scenario and there is some student that made a mistake, how can you continue building on the collaboration and cooperation with this student or with this athlete even after mistakes? This is an environment that you feel safe to make mistakes, and you know that mistakes is a learning moment. Your mistakes are learning moments and not as an opportunity for others to just let you aside and not collaborate with you. So use this and embed that discussion and this debriefing on mistakes and what does it mean to make a mistake and how safe it is within your game to make a mistake. Trust. So trust is building with lots of effort. It's a continuous process. It's not uh, one semester of building on trust. It's something that is keep being negotiated. So if you need to develop this trusting and trustful environment, your focus on relationships needs to be continuous. You don't just plan a relationship semester and then you continue focusing only on techniques or tactics and you forget the relationality, because then trust is destabilized. And teach your the students or athletes to remain kind, not only to be kind but to remain kind, building on their own emotions and the emotions of others. And last but not least, integrity. I think this is ethics in action. And one way of working with integrity is the co-creation of rules. That's why I really believe that books like Fair Play, from teaching games from the standing, the Butler book on the fair play, that focus a lot on co-creation of rules, gives lots of examples of relational accountability. And I think that it's something that everyone, no matter if we are at the starting level of teaching or coaching, or if we are more advanced, it builds relational accountability. How can you work with your students and your athletes in activities that you co-create the rules or divide them in small groups And each group, according to some guidelines, co-create their rules. Another thing for building on integrity is that developing some game scenarios or some game activities that include lots of moral tension. So you teach not only tactics in the way that you create skillful players to play the tactics and learn the tactics of the game, but you create some scenarios, for example, when there is advantage of one team against the other, or fairness is not equally balanced. These scenarios create moral tension. So how can you debrief afterwards or during the gameplay? How can you help your students or athletes or players to choose the best solution for solving this tension and not just performing and leaving it on the side? So instead of designing games for game performance, design games for ethical relationality and resolving of moral tensions. And overall, since this is an activity that involves humans in action and more than humans in action, because we have equipment, facilities, and curriculum, be ready to restore. So help your students to treat the conflicts that emerge as learning events that can help them negotiate, develop listening skills, and restore relationships that may be threatened or damaged due to a lack of empathy, due to a lack of integrity. I think that these three pillars can be included within game design so that we can address the situation that we face in modern educational or athletic context, which, as I said, put lots of strains on youth. How can we do that as teachers or coaches? If we want to model respect and develop an action plan with debriefing strategies that can focus on relational ethics, players need specialized activities for this purpose. It's not that they play a game and they learn that. No, this doesn't happen. You need to purposefully design games for this way. Another thing is that usually sometimes in modern educational context, we focus on deficits. We say what students or athletes lack. One of the biggest shifts in working with relational ethics in game design is the adoption of an asset-based approach focused on the advantages that your players bring to your class and not what they lack. This is a huge shift of perspective that can help you address the lesson or the coaching session differently. And above all, remember that rude or unkind coaching or teaching behavior rarely helps. Sometimes the whistle and the continuous whistling is something that can be rude and unkind for young children because it models poor communication and doesn't help young people focus on how to give their best or how to use whatever they bring as their best. There are always opportunities to encourage what I call walking a mile in their shoes, in everyone's shoes, not just being for a moment in the other shoes, but developing roles within the games where you will see what is happening when you take another's perspective. I mean, a perspective for a less skilled student, a perspective for a student that isn't given the ball, a perspective for a student that doesn't understand the rules, a perspective of the student that is very slow in terms of learning or needs to be continuous guidance in order to learn. So how can you remain the whole lesson, not only one thought, in another's shoes? This is a great example, and lots of scenarios can be developed to help students learn in that way. Help them to remember that it's just a game, but this game is something that happens to life, so it's important to resolve face to face whatever conflict um, pops up, and not model responsive behavior when they go away, because this doesn't have a pedagogical effect, because they usually forget or interpret differently, and help them learn that following the rules and being relational is not being obedient and blindly obedient, but it's a way of taking responsibility and learning how to appreciate and how to develop a different skills so that they stay calm and respectful. And this could be a huge reward both for you and your students. Uh, in terms of game design, we can focus on team imbalance. As I said, teams don't need to be balanced with equal number of players. Continuous and surprise, as I say, game rules that the rules can change at any moment during the game. And by changing the rules, the goals of the game shift as well. So you train the continuous relationship and negotiation around the developing relationships throughout the game. What else can you do? You can develop a poll within your lessons. If there are some students saying, why would we need to do that? Or why should I decide together with this peer, I don't like him or I don't like her. So you can develop a poll. Or you can develop a poll of emotions. How are you feeling today? What's your decision about next time? How could we address this so that our game becomes better next time? Help students leave your session with some takeaways, not just how was the lesson today, go and drink some water, bye-bye, but give some takeaways, 2 to 4 each day, so that they have to rework them and bring them back next time with ideas for these takeaways to work better next time. And also inform your students about the next steps. Don't just practice ethical relationality implicitly or without explicitly announcing why are you doing that and why it's important, because we need this to transfer to other life areas. And after leaving school or after leaving your coaching sessions, when these people take care of their lives. Above all, it's important that we remember that we can't do that by heart. I mean, we need to develop a protocol, and that is why a specific curriculum can help us shift from instructor to facilitator, and not just direct the relational landscape, but broaden this landscape as it is evolving. And sometimes we don't feel confident in doing that, and that is why it helps when we put on paper some guidelines for designing games with a focus on relationality. That's why I believe that TGfU can help a lot here to broaden what is written as curriculum, as another curriculum, or as not an extra integrated curriculum for supporting fair play development, not something that is an add-on to the serious coaching session, but something that is explicitly included, so that there you can, apart from teaching skills, you can teach problem solving skills, conflict resolution skills, negotiation skills, empathy, integrity, maintaining patience during high pressure moments. And by doing that, you don't only help students, you also help yourself, because you maintain a systematic approach for doing that and not just react to different coaching groups. And by doing that, you also sustain a sense of community, because everyone knows that while I'm working with this teacher, while I'm working with this coach, we are working with a breadth of human skills, with a breadth of human resources, or more than human resources. And this creates a roadmap not only for you and your students, but also for your colleagues, for your school, or from the stakeholders in the community, the parents. And this can help you better turn the gameplay into a truly transformative educational experience, and not only one effort between some coaching sessions. I really believe that these are very invaluable foundations for life, and they help students for very young ages. It's something that can be practiced even for the very young ages, and outside of physical education and sport can be transferred easily, but games within physical education and sport can support all this holistic learning, because from the first moment all these values come into the forefront and help us celebrate what we define as victory beyond the final scoreboard. So some key takeaways is that value, first of all, this way of working, practice it in the way that you can do at the moment, not leaving it as something that you can do when you acquire some professional development knowledge. It's something that you can start building with the knowledge that you have with simple training activities, and empower both yourself and your students to remain relational and integral, develop integrity, honesty, and empathy, so that you can nurture young people through sports and physical educations in values that they become something that they can take away for their life. So thank you for being here with us, and we're really happy to see you next time in our webinars.
Is there any questions?
Yes,
Yes.
good morning.
Good morning.
Congratulations for your webinar, especially Mrs. Dania Aspasia, my colleague. I have two questions for you. Are you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay. I try to find the questions I wrote. Uh, uh, the first one, Aspasia, I speak to you. Congratulations first. I kiss you. Could all these genuinely important aspects that you mentioned be part of a physical education lesson?
Yes, thank you, Petros. I really believe that they can. Otherwise, I wouldn't introduce them. I really believe in the power of relationships. And yes, they can be purposefully integrated within game or lesson design.
In one lesson?
In physical education.
Yes, yes.
Mm.
Okay, the
Yes.
second one. Have you attended or observed physical education lessons with such characteristics? And if so, what elements did you identify within the lesson?
Okay, yes. I was yesterday, it was very lucky because I was yesterday in two schools observing lessons like that. And what was important was that there was lots of dialogic moments within the design of activities. There were lots of activities with co-designing of rules. There were some open-ended scenarios, and there was some the brilliant celebrations of victory. Like one that I like very much was in a primary school, the teacher was saying celebrate the victory without making a noise so that you disturb the others while they were finishing the activity. And there were the students that were celebrating without shouting. This was really impressive, while the others were continuing to finalize the activity that the teacher has given. Another school, they designed themselves the game, they played it and they evaluated, and these two classes were third and fourth grade students.
Okay, and a third one, because of this of your answers. Uh, uh, did you these lessons you observed and you find and you saw this results of your study? Uh, did they use one specific model, pedagogical model, or a way of teaching?
They used Hellison's model within with game-based approaches. It was
Ah, okay,
hybrid. It
an
was
hybrid
hybrid.
edition,
Yes,
game based with Hellison model. Okay, teaching.
yes, but yes, but I think relationships can be everywhere. So not necessarily in Hellison. It can be in meaningful PE. It can be in sport education. It can be in cooperative learning. Many models and
But you
many
speak
models.
about models.
Yes, but many models can use a game-based approach to design
Yes,
the
yes, yes.
lessons. So this was the teachers that they were doing. They were using a game-based approach in combination with other models. And
Yes,
this was
yes. I
really
know.
amazing. It was they had started doing that, and as based on what they said, years now. It was not their first time, so you could see how the class would just had embodied these values. It was not one, and the next day we forget. It was impressive.
Yes, yes. I understand you. I understand you because I use this same kind of work.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Any
Uh,
other questions? No.
no, I think that's it. So thank you, Aspasia, for sharing this presentation today. It's greatly appreciated. All the information, including certificates of attendance and slides, will be made available on the TGfU website. Thank you for those who are coming today or who have watched this webinar. We greatly appreciate it, and we look forward to seeing you at the next webinars. Have a good day.
Have a good
You
day.
too.
Bye
You too.
bye.
Bye bye. Γεια σας, Ασπασία.
Yeah.
Yeah.